The Denver Broncos just had a huge and some would say monstrous breakthrough, and it came at the perfect time. We get evidence that this Denver Broncos team has zero quit in it and will use the loss against the Kansas City Chiefs as fuel to propel us to a playoff berth. We get more evidence that Sean Payton was right about Bo Nix and not drafting Caleb Williams, that and so much more in this video. If you love the Denver Broncos, it helps me out a ton. If you would also like and subscribe to this channel, helps me out a ton and helps the YouTube algorithm out a ton as well. So if you've been following the Denver Broncos for the past few seasons, you know that our running game up the middle especially has been atrocious since Javonte Williams' first year. And so you thought coming into this game, playing against Chris Jones and just a beast-stacked defensive line of the Kansas City Chiefs, that this wasn't going to be the week that we moved the ball, especially up the middle of the field. And boy, oh boy, we got a monster back here, guys. Audric Estime had a breakout game. You saw Sean Payton trusting him late. He did not fumble the ball. He was holding it with two hands when there was contact, and you just take a look at his run chart, and this is exactly what we want to see. Sean Payton draws up run schemes where he has your power back up the middle, and then he's going to draw cool little things for Jaleel that's going out here, and he's going to line Marvin Mims up in the background and come out to the outside this way. This is exactly what Sean Payton did when he was in New Orleans for all those years. This is what he has wanted to do this year, and what I love looking at this chart is you don't see a single time where Javonte should have, or when Audric takes a tackle for a loss, and that is something that we just have not seen in Denver since Javonte Williams' rookie year. It feels like we are constantly running into the line and getting a half-yard gain or a 2-yard loss, and I love seeing that he is always falling forward, that while he didn't have the craziest 40 time that you've ever seen, his first 10 yards were as fast as any running back in that draft, including Blake Corum and all these top drafted running backs. So we have an absolute monster here. He has gotten control of the ball. He doesn't have the fumble issues that he had. And you see Sean Payton put ultimate faith in him to carry the ball when that game mattered the most, as we should have locked out that win against them. And so you see Sean Payton come out and praise him and being like, he gives us a ton of juice. We are going to keep utilizing him. He's going to get more carries. And then when Audric was asked, like, hey, how do you think you guys are going to respond to this loss? This was your first big loss as an NFL starter. Here's what he had to say.
All week, and just see the look on everyone's faces, but it's a tough one, but I think we're going to use this as more fuel for the remainder of the season.
Have you ever felt
So
just the first?
We're going to use this as more fuel for the season, and then he was asked again about it, and this was my favorite quote from him.
I really felt this way in the NFL. It's definitely tough, but I think it's going to make me into a monster.
I like that.
I already feel like he's a monster, and he's like, hey, I think this is going to make me into a monster. You see that same level of confidence about, hey, we're not going to take this sitting down. If anything, this just fuels the fire even more. And so for all those in Broncos country who feel like this is going to be the last domino on top of the stack that knocks this whole thing over and we end up tanking out the rest of the year, that's just not how Sean Payton builds his teams. And I think the evidence for that you can find at the start of last year. Like, I will never forget this 70-20 loss. We were an embarrassment. That is the biggest point differential that I've seen in like a decade, and it was against our Broncos defense, right? And we looked horrible. And then we go to Chicago, who was also a horrible team at that time, and we are down in the fourth quarter, and we showed zero quit. And it was that season that we let the Miami Dolphins drop a 70 burger on us, that we run off 5 straight wins against teams that we shouldn't have beat and make a playoff push just towards the end of that season. So this Broncos team has shown time and time again, dating back to all of Sean Payton's tenure, that they do not let setbacks define who they are, that they use it as fuel. If anything, this Kansas City Chiefs game, after just getting blown out by the Ravens the week before, if we were going to quit, that's when we would have quit. But instead, we took the best shot of a back-to-back Super Bowl champ who is undefeated, and we should have won. And so I think that gives the dudes a ton of confidence. It's like, you know, we're in a fight, we take their best shot, and we fall down because we trip on our own shoelaces. You get back up saying, man, I actually can compete with anyone, and that's exactly what Bo Nix said in his press conference. He's like, we know that we can compete with any team in this league, and that starts this week as Justin Simmons and the Falcons come back to town. We're just seeing more and more. We see our players who we have always known are good rising up the ranks, and the fact that the national media has doubted us hasn't held us back whatsoever. There's a tremendous amount of confidence in this locker room, inspired by how Sean Payton leads this team, and you absolutely love to see it. Seeing, Garrett Bowles allowing zero pressure last week against Bo Nix, incredible, because that's one of the best defensive fronts in all of football. And so we have the dudes on this squad. We have the leader. You have Patrick Mahomes after being like, hey, this is the first of many we have against each other. He knows that Bo Nix is going to be a tough out for him the rest of his career, and Bo Nix will outlast Patrick Mahomes because he's a lot younger. Other thing you absolutely love to see, there was a lot of people just not that hyped about Bo Nix. He was the last quarterback drafted in that first round, and it felt like, we just took whoever was available. But Sean Payton was adamant that Bo was his dude all along, even more so than Caleb Williams. And it's incredible to see that there were Chicago Bears players who came out and actually wanted, today the Bears fired their offensive coordinator. There were players on that Bears team who would prefer to see Caleb Williams benched than firing their offensive coordinator. Meanwhile, you have all of these Broncos players coming out and being like, Bo Nix is going to be special. Bo Nix is already the leader of this locker room. Bo Nix is the type of dude I want to go to war with. And so I love seeing Sean Payton was dead on, spot on in saying that Bo Nix was going to be special and was going to be the player out of this draft who everybody is talking about. And finally, the league is starting to pay attention. You just look that Bo Nix played probably the toughest defense of any rookie last week, and his numbers were off the chart. You could say the Steelers, that may have been a tougher defense for Jaden, but still Bo Nix drastically outperformed Jaden Daniels, even though he played on the road and Jaden played at home in this game. So you just look, we got the best quarterback out of this draft. Our defense is elite. If we win 5 games, we're in the playoffs as a lock. We can make it with 4 wins if it's against the correct opponents and how all that works out. But I'm just feeling fantastic about a playoff berth for this Denver Broncos team, and nobody wants to play this defense come January. I'm just telling you, that's a cold, hard fact. Also seeing there's a lot of talk at the trade deadline that we should have gone out and got Deontay Johnson from the Panthers, and I love seeing that even his coach is like, kind of gives him a huge burn here as the Steelers are preparing to play against the Ravens. And basically they were asked like, hey, what's it going to be like playing against your former teammate in Deontay? And he's like, they have way more significant pieces with larger roles that occupy my attention. So just a really subtle jab there about his former player. And I think we're going to see a similar jab, as I hope against hope that the Denver Broncos have a chance to play against Russell Wilson and the Pittsburgh Steelers in the playoffs, and that we see Sean Payton saying a very similar thing, and that's something that would get us insanely fired up. Can you even imagine how hyped we'd be in Broncos country to break our playoff streak and get to play the Pittsburgh Steelers and really get revenge for that entire Russell Wilson debacle? It would be amazing, and that's something we can all believe in. Gotta hit that.